Ben?
G'day, Andrew. Thanks for jumping on for us. Um, yeah, Andrew, I know you haven't seen the pitch yet, but do you sense, with the conditions you've been told about in Sydney and the fact that an Indian tour is coming up, that Ashton Agar is maybe likely to get a game here?
The one thing I've learned around wickets recently is never assume anything. So I think we'll just wait and see as to what unfolds from the ground staff in terms of the wicket they prepare. But what I will say around that is that we feel as though we've got a squad for whatever that surface may be, that we've got pretty much all bases covered within that 14-man squad. And no doubt Ash is a big part of that, more so with a view to complementing the team that we've already got in place if we were to play two spinners. And yeah, there is a bit of connection to India based upon the fact that the surface may be, an older type of SCG wicket that does offer some turn as the game goes on.
Yeah, Andrew, obviously you won't do it unless the conditions suit it, but would you see a benefit in giving Ashton a game before you get to India, particularly given he hasn't played Test cricket for some time now?
Game time at Test level is always beneficial, and if it does have connection, to a tour in the future, then no doubt it makes sense. You're still wanting to pick the right team for the right conditions. You don't want to play in spite of the conditions in terms of the team you pick. So that'll all unfold in the next couple of days as to what that wicket and surface offers, and we'll make a decision around that in due course.
Dan.
G'day, Andrew. Just with Matt Renshaw coming into the squad, is a thought there that if he were to play, it would be in the middle order? And if so, is the thought that Marcus Harris is really only a top order or not in the team player? And is there any prospect that Uzi could drop down, given I suppose the initial circumstances in terms of how he came into the team?
Yeah, we feel with Matt in particular that he's got the flexibility to bat anywhere in the order from the top through the middle as well. And we've seen over time his spin play has improved. So we feel as though that he could potentially fill that middle order position. And that's not to really dismiss the fact that he could play top order as well. So with Marcus Harris, we feel, he's an opening batter or top three. We've seen him bat sort of three at times across his career. That probably makes sense, what you're saying there. Don't want to give too much away. The Usman Khawaja one, he could bat middle, but we do like the combination of him and Davey at the top, and that's probably where we'll head in the future as well, unless things shifted significantly on us. But Matt gives us that flexibility for a middle order player. There's no doubt about that.
Thanks, Andrew.
Dan, or the other Dan B.
Thanks, Cole. Andrew, just one on Ashton Agar. Obviously, his last of his Test matches in Bangladesh in 2017, and since then, he's played a bit of first-class cricket, but obviously playing as a spin bowler in Australia, you don't always get the opportunity to bowl in the conditions that he might get, say, going on a tour to India. How challenging is it as a coach and a selector to kind of get a read on how well someone's bowling with the potential of playing in very different conditions to what they get in the Shield?
Yeah, and I'd add to that also that the fact that he plays a lot of white ball cricket eliminates him from obviously the Shield season most of the time. So that's unfortunate, but that is the way of the world in terms of cricket and the scheduling. Would be like him to have more first-class opportunities. There's no doubt about that. But we feel as though that skill set would fit perfectly in the subcontinent. We've picked him to go to Pakistan, picked him to go to Sri Lanka as well. And unfortunately, injury probably cost him an opportunity there. And Mitchell Swepson was able to fill that role very well for us in Sri Lanka. But it's always a bit of the unknown, but we feel as though that skill set will match up there. And it's no different to the batters as well. The extreme conditions of India, you're making an educated guess at times if they haven't been there or had a long period of time there to see whether they can work through that. So, but we feel pretty comfortable that Ash has got that skill set, and he's a very mature player now. And we feel like that if he was to get that opportunity in India or firstly here, that he'll be able to step up into that role.
And just as a follow up, irrespective of the types of bowling attacks that you're picking, whether it be in Sydney or in India, how much is it about, I suppose, the best collective to kind of restrict an opponent, put them under pressure, build up maidens, build up, partnerships at either end?
Yeah, it's big. We always talk about a complementary, or complementing skill sets in amongst the team, whether it be batting or bowling, but more so bowling. That's one area that we can control. And yeah, we want to make sure as a selection panel that we give Pat the options to be able to navigate through any situation that were to come up on the surfaces that we play on. So there is a lot of thought that goes into that, and we'll meet and heavily discuss that in conjunction with Pat as to how he sees the game playing out as well. But yeah, ultimately our job as selectors is to give the captain the right skill sets to complement each other for any of the scenarios that may pop up.
Thank you. Thank you, Benny.
Andrew, thank you. Andrew, is there any lingering fitness concern with Josh Hazlewood? And, if he is fit, does he automatically come into the attack?
First question there, no, there's no issues or any concern around that. It was touch and go for Melbourne, as has been discussed. So yeah, a near miss there would suggest that any sort of risk of re-injuring that side is very minimal. You can never say that it's not there because fast bowlers can get injured at any point in time. But yeah, definitely we feel like that risk is minimal. And then once again, on the back of Dan's question previously, just around how we structure up that attack to complement each other, and all those things will be considered. So there's so many options depending on what the surface offers in terms of the balance of attack. It could be two spinners, two quicks. It could be, we could play a slightly more aggressive team with Alex Carey going to six and play five bowlers, or we could just play what we call probably a normal structure for Australia, where it's three quicks and one spinner and some part-time spin options to help out in that second spin position. So that's really where we're at. Our thinking's probably similar to everyone else's, and hence why we've got that 14-man squad to give us those options.
And do you feel comfortable in a scenario where Alex Carey bats at six?
Yeah, very comfortable. I think he's shown he's more than capable. An incredible innings at the MCG. Some of his work in Sri Lanka was very impressive in those conditions. So it feels as though his game's well-rounded now. He's got options for most of the surfaces. And, yeah, I think that an exposure up the order would be good for the team and also good for his game.
Pete. Oh, sorry. You would have got another one, Ben?
Oh, sorry. It was just to check something off, Andrew, just whether Mitchell Stark had his X-rays yet, and whether there was any kind of update on what his treatment might look like.
Yeah, I think he reported to the hand surgeon today with Dr. Golding. So, yeah, I'll look forward to that update later in the day, so that they're compiling that information. But I think as we sit here at the moment, the injury is what it was first diagnosed as, and yeah, he'll have an extended period on the sideline. But at this stage, there's been no mention of surgery or any of those things. So I think it's just purely a splint, and rest it up and get that tendon to heal.
Pete.
Sure, Ben's finished.
Oh, Ben.
Are we back there again as a collective, are we?
Hey, it's that time of the year, Andrew, and the players tell us how much you love meetings, and so you've probably already done this. 12-month review. How do you look back at the players' performances, the team performances for 2022?
Firstly, don't believe everything Dave tells you. That's what I would say there, Pete. But we've discussed long and hard around what the type of team that we want to be, and hopefully that's playing out for all to see. And we don't want to talk about ourselves. It's up to others to, I suppose, witness and observe those behaviours in the team that we are at the moment. And adaptability is one thing that we really pride ourselves on, and to have the challenges here of last summer on interesting wickets against England, and then to go to Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and then obviously back here in different conditions again. The adaptability of this team has been really, really impressive, and really proud of what the group's been able to achieve this year. A lot of work to go. There's a lot of challenges that are coming up. First and foremost, Sydney. But there's a sense of excitement around India. There's no doubt a sense of excitement around the World Test Championship, how we're placed there. We've firstly got to secure a spot in that final, and then on to the Ashes. So we've got some really exciting challenges coming up, and the group's really united in what they want to achieve around that. And we're here as coaches to support that and give them the options and help navigate through as a collective. And we feel as though so far we're on track, and Pat's done an outstanding job. And I think that what we saw at Melbourne highlights where the group's at.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of bowling depth there. You're confident that the depth's there in the other aspects of the game as well? Batting, I guess, being the primary one.
Yeah, we feel so. Obviously, Matt Renshaw coming again in Test cricket has had some success there before. Pete Hanscom, no doubt, would probably consider himself unlucky not to be in that conversation for Sydney. But there's another one that is coming back into the Test fold in conversation. So whether he's on that Indian trip or not is yet to be determined. And you've got Marcus Harris also. So we feel as though we've got Test experience within that depth. Some will say that the age profile is a little bit older in those, and there's probably potentially not as many youngsters in that, but we feel as though that experience is beneficial. There's a lot of great stories of people having a taste of Test cricket, going out and coming back in and being really successful. So we feel as though that journey is very similar for those players, and they're the ones that have been putting their hand up at Sheffield Shield level also. So it really is exciting for those players coming in. And the opportunity this time comes at, with Cameron Green unfortunately being injured, which we don't like to see.
Thank you.
Jasper.
Hey, Andrew. Jumped on a bit late, so sorry if this has already been asked, but just wondering how much consideration was given to Todd Murphy or any of the other spin options, or whether it was pretty open and shut that it would be Ash with that extra spinner, if you do choose to go that way with an extra spinner.
Yeah, no, always a consideration, and Todd's putting his hand up with the performances that he's put on the board. Mitch Swepson, performed well in the subcontinent previously. We feel as though the complementing type of spinner that we've picked here with the left arm orthodox is the way that we want it to go. So sometimes a second spinner isn't necessarily the best next spinner, if that makes sense. It's the one that complements what you have, and we feel like the left arm orthodox is, can be successful at Sydney and also as we venture to the subcontinent.
Alex.
Just a quick one, Andrew, on Cameron Green. Are you confident he'll be right for that first test in Nagpur, given that break will take a little bit of time to heal, and then obviously he's got to work through hitting a number of balls and all of his skill training coming up?
Yeah, I am confident he will be fit with the timeframes that I've been given. The challenge will be making sure that we can be creative in the way that he trains to make sure that his body's in order to mitigate against something else going wrong, which is always the fear coming off an injury if you can't get the work in. But we feel as though with the medical team that have done an outstanding job, in the last game, we feel as though that, we're confident that he'll be ready for that first test match. And the risk wasn't there to extend the length of time in that injury, and hence why he did bat in that first innings. The timeframes remained the same as what it was from the initial diagnosis. So very confident he'll be fit and available for that first test match.
Thanks, Mike.
Did you have another one there, Jasper? No?
No, all good. Thanks, Cole.
Okay. Back to Dan C.
Thanks, Cole. Andrew, just in 2017, when the team came very close, obviously before your time, the team came very close to winning in India, that they had a training camp in the UAE ahead of time to work on some of those skills. Is there anything like that planned, bearing in mind the time constraints this year and the fact that quite a few of the guys are playing BBL, or is it going to be, do you know if you're going to have any tour matches or anything like that over there?
We won't have any tour matches. Yes, there will be an opportunity. We're going to go to India about a week out from the first game. We didn't want to sort of press for too much longer in terms of the prep. We feel as though 7 days is ample time to get ready, and to make sure that we maintain freshness throughout the whole 4 test match series. So we had some success doing that. Going into Pakistan, we had a shortened period on the ground there. So we feel as though, once we lock away that prep, we feel as though that'll be the best preparation, and that'll be about 7 days out from that first test match.
Thank you.
Back to Dan B.
Andrew, just on that and those the preparation for India, how can you sort of quantify, I guess, the challenge of getting fit for purpose practice wickets ahead of test matches in other parts of the world? I think that that can be a challenge from tour to tour. I guess that's obviously why the camp was in the UAE in 2017, and probably the preparation you had in Melbourne before Pakistan was quite well suited because you got to pick those conditions. Yeah,
we'll have the opportunity to use our home conditions before we leave as well. So there'll be an opportunity there I think we're looking to base ourselves in Sydney for a little bit of that as well. I'm mindful that Big Bash is going on at the same time, so making sure that we make our players available on a needs basis there, and the guys who aren't playing Big Bash, make sure that we prepare them the best we can at home before we land over in India. It's always a challenge. No tour game is something that we've sort of done in the last few series. Before embarking upon overseas tours. So we feel as though we don't need that match practice as such, but we prefer a centre wicket in India to be able to go through some scenario training. And we feel as though with this experienced group also that have been there before, that they won't need as long to adapt to the conditions, knowing that they've been there before. But we can be creative in our own conditions. We've done it before with the Pakistan build in Melbourne, dusting up wickets, fit for purpose, working with the local groundsmen who really help us in and around the country. So we feel as though we can get as close to that as possible without necessarily a practice game.
And just a last one on Lance Morris. Is it still very much the case ahead of this week with Mitchell Stark not there that he plays if you feel like you need a Stark type bowler, or can we see a scenario where it's sort of Cummins bowl and Hazelwood, say, if you've got 3 quicks?
All scenarios are on the table. If we feel as though we need some airspeed, then no doubt Lance is the obvious one. The conditions will determine that. So I'd love to be able to speak in more depth around it. In 2 days' time, I'll probably be better positioned to be able to discuss and talk about that, along with obviously Tony Donamate and George Bailey and Captain Pat Cummins. So, I think that's one that's possible if the conditions present that way.
Thank you.
All good. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone. If there's no more questions out there, guys, have a awesome night tonight to celebrate New Year's Eve, and we'll catch you guys either tomorrow or the next day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks,
Happy New Year. See you on the other side of it.